Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, San Diego will take a big hit on its budget next year because of its pension obligations. And after one of the strongest storms on record hits the Philippines, San Diegans are working to send relief. By now, you've heard of the top candidates running for San Diego mayor, but did you know a 22-year-old college student is running? And so is a restaurant owner from Iran.
And if you want to keep tabs on the mayor's race every minute of the day, there's a new app for that. How it works and who's using it. I'm Peggy Pico. Also ahead, the life and death of a teen in a Nazi labor camp is revealed through hidden letters sent to his parents. The boy's only living relative talks with us about bringing those letters to life in her new book.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. San Diego will have to put more money into its employee pension fund next year, leading to a $12 million budget hit in fiscal 2014. Today, directors of the City Employees Retirement System voted to lower its discount rate. The move lowers the fund's risk in investment markets, but it also means the city has to increase money it puts into the fund. Not just next year, but every year the lower rate is in effect. Interim Mayor Todd Gloria says there will still be enough money for basic services, but not as much to improve them. He plans to release a 5-year financial outlook for the city next week. Gun crime in the county was down in the first 9 months of this year. Sandag says there were over 1,100 gun-related crimes between January and September, a decrease of about 6% from 2012 and a 13% drop from 2008. The largest percentage of gun crimes this year have been aggravated assaults, followed by robberies, then homicides, which made up only 2% of gun crimes. The prosecution has rested its case in the retrial of drifter Richard Tuitt. He's charged with manslaughter in the stabbing death of an Escondido girl 15 years ago. Tuitt was previously convicted in 2004 in the death of 12-year-old Stephanie Crow, but the verdict was overturned last year. Many witnesses from the previous trial testified again, including neighbors, police, and criminologists who say blood found on Tuitt's clothing matches Crow's. His defense will present their case on Wednesday. San Diego's Filipino community has begun organizing relief efforts after a massive typhoon struck their homeland on Thursday. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy tells us family members were still struggling to recover from last month's earthquake.
Many of San Diego County's 180,000 Filipinos watched with fear and prayers as the typhoon slammed into their homeland with sustained winds of 200 miles per hour. Respina McCoy Torrevillas has several family members who were in the path of the storm when it struck. She was able to text her sister Friday morning and learned they're all okay and their houses only sustained minor damage.
But we know that out there we have less fortunate members of the community who may have experienced the damages and the wrath of the rain and the strong wind.
Manuel Adiza is pastor of St. Michael's Catholic Church in Paradise Hills, where most of the 3,000 members are Filipino. He says the church is planning prayer services and raising money for relief efforts.
Right now, we are trying to rally behind the people back home. Especially last month, they were hit by 7.2 earthquake. We call it monster earthquake. And right now it's a super storm, or super typhoon.
The large earthquake struck the Philippines on October 15th. The trembler killed more than 200 people and toppled dozens of buildings. Several San Diego groups are responding with aid to the ravaged region, including a Poway-based Filipino organization. They're sending 200,000 food packs of rice, water, and canned goods. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
You can find more information about the relief efforts on our website, kpbs.org. A high-ranking House Republican says there isn't time to deal with immigration reform this year. Congressman Kevin McCarthy is from Bakersfield, and he's the third-ranking Republican in the House. He says he's committed to working on immigration next year. You may recall the Senate passed a comprehensive reform bill in June, but it's been stalled in the House. A court victory for a developer looking to build upscale homes at the site of the Escondido Country Club. He sued after City Council there passed a measure to block his plan. The judge says the suit has merit and isn't just an attempt to intimidate neighbors opposed to the plan. Legal experts say it could be a landmark property rights case. We're familiar with public opinion polls for quite a bit of time. They've been the go-to method for predicting election outcomes, but social media could take over, as we hear from Peggy Pico.
San Diego State University researchers have created a new interactive web app to analyze the Twitter buzz surrounding the top 4 candidates vying to become the city's next mayor. Here with more on how it works is one of the app's developers, SDSU geography professor Ming So. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Professor So, what got you interested in creating this app called the Election Path?
Yeah, I think the original idea is that we as a human being, we communicate today a lot using our mobile phone, using the social media. And we want to see the reaction between the real world event correlated to your social media communication. I think the election is a way to justify or verify the result. So that's the idea to create this election path.
Does the explain to us how the election path track works as far as how it tracks San Diego's mayor's race. We're going to put it up on the screen here, and if you could describe to us what we're looking at and how it actually works.
Yeah, so what we did is we're using the Twitter, using the API, and only targeting in the San Diego region. So because we concern the election, we don't need people from outside New York, other people.
Correct.
So we are geo-targeting in San Diego. We collect the social media mentioned for each candidate in the daily base, and then compare the intensity rate.
And then if this were to scroll down, what are we going to see on the bottom of this page?
Yeah, if you scroll down, we collect the data actually 1 month ago. So you see all the 4 candidates, their daily mention, the change actually is corresponding to how popular or the attention rate in each candidate.
And you collected this data. You've been collecting it for a month.
Yes.
But you collect the data in real time, and each day that's sort of conjugated?
Yes, but I think 1 week ago, we finished this final product, so people can easily to use this analytic to retrieve the detailed information every day.
Every single day. Is your goal with this app to predict a winner?
Well, some people may think that's one possibility, but I think the real purpose is to model human behavior. So if you see the diagram, you see that you can see every single day how many people are interested in each individual candidate. But also if you see the spectrum, you see on every Sunday, you get the lowest number of tweets. So people don't like to tweet on Sunday. Okay. So the Monday is the biggest number of tweets. So you actually is not only model which candidate is more likely to be win, but also model everyone's human behavior.
Their behavior, I see. Based on today's real-time data that's coming in through this, who would win?
I think the data we have show is yesterday information, but in yesterday, Kevin actually have a win almost double to other candidate.
Kevin Faulconer.
Yes. So
now, let me ask you about that, though. Could it just be that Kevin Faulconer people tweet more than, let's say, David Alvarez people?
Yeah, I think this is a research we call the data science. So one very important component is we filter out the error message or clean the data. So what we did is we removed all the tweets from their campaign manager, their own people.
I see.
So we only see the outside people mention that candidate. There's always an error, but this is like a predicting weather. We want to make sure how to improve the data model to match the real-world event.
Now, I know that you've used and developed similar applications to track the flu virus and also in the presidential election of 2012. How accurate were those apps in tracking and predictions?
Yeah, I think last year we did analyzing the presidential campaign election. When we emphasizing on the Florida campaign, we did predict Obama will win that Florida state by only like a 10 Twitter account.
Really?
Yes, so I was shocked.
So a very small sample size actually had an accurate prediction.
Yeah, and we predicted 50%.
Okay. How do you think that this type of social media analysis might replace more traditional pollings or practices?
Yeah, I think in the short run, it will provide additional information. I mean, major polls still have their value. But I think in the long run, when the people more and more involved with the social media, the information we collect from the social media is more representative, then the value will become bigger and bigger and more popular.
Okay, so exponential growth
Yes.
expected. Well, I want to let folks know they can check out the Election Path app on our website, kpbs.org. Professor Ming So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, we've been profiling the top 4 candidates in the San Diego mayor's race, but there are more than 4 names on the ballot. In the last of our series, KPBS Metro reporter Sandia Dirks talks to some of the others who want to be the city's next leader.
Let's start with Michael Kemmer, a 22-year-old San Diego State University student. When he filed the necessary paperwork with the city clerk, he quoted himself saying his signature phrase,
"Boom, baby."
It isn't quite your typical political slogan. I'll let Kemmer, which is what his friends call him, tell the story.
It started off when we were running for student government about a year and a half ago, and we got excited and started chanting it, right? So whenever I get excited, I just, "Boom, baby," right? And someone was telling me when I was writing my statement qualifications, like, "Kimmer, this is you, except you're forgetting one thing." And I was like, "What's that?" "You need to put boom, baby in there."
Kemmer is getting a major in business and a minor in poli-sci, and he says he's running for mayor, well, because he can.
It started off one of my poli-sci professors. He told us about the charter, the city charter, and said, you know, it's fairly straightforward to get on the ballot. Then he started telling us there's random people who will be on the ballot this year, and I got a team together, said, hey guys, we could be that random person. So let's see if he's telling the truth. Is it really that straightforward?
Turns out it was. But getting on the ballot is one thing. Getting your name out there is a whole other story. When I talked to Kemmer, he was smack dab in the midst of midterms, running on the college students' combo of Red Bull and adrenaline. He was also excited because that night was the first debate he had been asked to attend at a public forum in San Ysidro.
Let's do low-cost, high-impact solutions that have been proven elsewhere.
The Boom Baby candidate did get a little ribbing from former city attorney Mike Aguirre.
First of all, I demand that we check his ID. I do not believe he's 22 years old. Could we have a law enforcement officer in here that could please come forward?
There were some notable absences on the San Ysidro High School stage. Kevin Faulkner wasn't there, and Nathan Fletcher didn't show. But the debate was interesting because of those who did show up, candidates making their first public appearance. There was Hud Collins, known to those familiar with San Diego politics as the gadfly of City Hall.
I am the only person that is going to be in this campaign that's going to make a lot of noise.
Also there was Harry Dirks, a businessman from La Jolla, no relation, I swear.
To be honest with you, this is my first forum in this race. I've been left out of several of the others, as many of the candidates have. I don't know why that is, but that's just part of the nature of the beast, I suppose.
Many of the outsider candidates share that frustration. In addition to these also-rans, also running are Lincoln Pickard and Tobias Pettis, and Simon Moghadam. Tucked away in a strip mall in Carmel Mountain is the Greek Corner Cafe. Owner Simon Moghadam is setting up for the day. Moghadam works 80 hours a week. He's the kind of guy who is constantly talking with customers. Often, he admits, complaining about everything that is wrong in the city. One day, he says, a regular customer asked him, well, what are you going to do about it? So he decided he'd run for mayor. There's another reason he wanted to run, he says. As an immigrant, he understands just how important the political process is. His family came to San Diego from Iran when he was just 12.
My dad didn't get a visa for the first 5 years, so it was just my mom raising me and my brother for the first few years, and it was a very, very difficult life. And we did pretty good. You know, we got educated very good. You know, we did get in a lot of troubles, you know. I remember going to Horseman Middle School back then, and there was not a week that I would get beat up, especially I didn't speak any English.
Despite a rough adjustment, Moghadam says he loves his adopted city of San Diego and the American way of government. He says America's unique. It's for the people and by the people, and any one of those people can run for political office. Moghadam says the best part of this whole experience is just that, getting out and talking to people.
You go down to like Logan Heights or Ocean Beach or PB or Claremont, and they have different problems that you just never think about. So it was a very humbling experience, and it made me a better person. So canvassing, it's a very hard job. I highly recommend it.
And he says that's what campaigning is all about. In the end, it really isn't about winning the election. It's about talking to people. That's the thing about these also-rans. From the brash college student to the humble restaurateur, they aren't trying to win, really. They're just trying to add their voice to a political chorus that they feel is monopolized by those already in power. The job of mayor, they say, should be open to anyone. After all, the only qualifications outside of age and residency is the desire to make a difference. Sandhya Dirks, KPBS News.
And one more person is joining the November 19th race. Farah Parahanchi qualified today as a write-in candidate. She's an electrical engineer who didn't make the ballot deadline in September. You can find all of our coverage of the special mayoral election online at kpbs.org/election. The story of the Holocaust is told in many different ways, but rarely is it told by one of its victims. Peggy Pico shows us how one man documented his life in work camps through letters to his parents.
During the demolition of a small house in Amsterdam in 1997, a foreman noticed a small bundle of papers hidden in the ceiling. Those papers were actually 86 letters written by 18-year-old Philip Sleer, documenting to his parents what his life was like in a labor camp in Holland during the Nazi occupation. Those letters are now presented in the book Hidden Letters, authored by Sleer's cousin, his only living relative. Joining me are the book's authors, Deborah Sleer-Shine, and her husband, Ian Shine. Welcome.
Thank you.
Deborah, you received Philip's letters 2 years after they were found. Before reading them, what did you know about your relatives during the Holocaust?
Well, during the Holocaust, we just knew they were in camps. We didn't know about concentration camps. But my father had received a letter after the German occupation of Holland via the Red Cross from one of his brothers, who said he was in a camp, he was well, but could you please send food?
Okay, and I understand in general, you had several family members there, 58 family members, and how many people survived?
Just 2 cousins, their wives, and 2 children.
Okay, and Ian, coming back to this, you've got these letters, you guys are going to write this book. You and your wife decided to find the people in Philip's, or Flip as he was known, Flip's letters. Who did you find, and how long did that take?
Well, it took a while, but we found his first girlfriend, Truss. That was a girlfriend from 1939 to 1940. And 60 years later, we interviewed her, and she told us what life was like with Flip. We found his first boyfriend, Karel van der Schaaf, who used to walk 90 miles a day every so often from Amsterdam to the camp to bring him food and sustenance. We found farmers, half a dozen or more farmers all around the camp, who used to give food, who invited them home for dinner, who used to let them watch the BBC, who gave them all sorts of things. And we're very privileged and very lucky to have found so many lovely, compassionate and courageous people.
Why, Deborah, why was it important for you to add these people into the book?
Well, I had grown up with their pictures and my father's story about Vrolijk Street. Vrolijk means happy in Dutch, but this is named for a Dr. Vrolijk. And when I got the letters, I realized I knew these people, but I never knew what happened to them. I just knew they were dead. And I needed that fill-in, and decided I would publish these letters.
And it gave this big picture. Now I know, Ian, photos, maps, historical facts, documents, a whole lot is included in this book. And how come you included it in this book rather than just publishing the letters?
Well, could I answer that?
Okay, yes.
Well,
you
answer, darling. And that because we share, perhaps with you, Peggy, and certainly with Patty and with Alice of Alice in Wonderland, the liking of a book that contains pictures and conversation. And because it helps everything come to life.
It helps tell the whole story. And the Patty you're referring to is actually our producer for the show. So a big shout out to her. Yeah. Deborah, what ultimately happened to your cousin Philip?
Well, eventually he ran away from the camp. He was hidden for a couple of days and could have stayed hidden, we believe, with the farmers. But he wanted to get back to his parents. So he dyed his hair, so we're told by his friend Carol, got false papers and worked in Amsterdam. But there was a plan for him to somehow get to Switzerland. And eventually he was caught and ended up in Sobibor, the death camp.
And he did that, it wasn't long, right, within a year, correct? A year of him leaving the first labor camp.
Right.
I see. Very sad. And Ian, there's an interesting message, it seems, in this book that goes beyond, of course, trying to prevent genocide from happening in the future. What do you think it's going to take to stop genocide? Do you have an answer?
Yeah, I do, but not one that I can give quickly, I think.
Okay.
But I mean, I would hope that it would depend on education and compassionate people such as you and PBS, you know, getting a message out that all of us have a responsibility for what goes on in Rwanda or Tibet, as well as what, you know, happened in the past.
Anywhere in the world. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, so I want to say the authors of the book Hidden Letters, Ian and Deborah Slierschein, thank you very much. And there is a whole bunch more on our website and perhaps the answer to that question as well, kpbs.org. Thank you both so much.
Well, thank you very much.
We follow the money in the campaign for mayor. Plus, developers vow to fight new fees imposed by City Council. I'm Mark Sauer. Join us for those stories and more on the Roundtable tonight at 8:30 on KPBS.
A new San Diego workshop is hoping to catch a piece of the do-it-yourself wave. KPBS business and environment reporter Eric Anderson says Sharper Studios is helping folks make their own surfboards.
I'm 62 this month, and my boards are all pretty thick and pretty wide.
Joe Dittler has surfed Coronado's beach break for decades. His board of choice tends to run long.
I have a nice little edge on my tail. I like that. And there's no concave under here, but I've got a good wide nose, which will support me nose riding.
Over the years, he's honed a vision of his perfect board. Dittler's favorites hang in his carport, including a 1965 Hobie.
The bottom line is I want to be able to get as many waves as I can, and good waves, and I want my equipment to be a part of me.
Southern California garages and spare rooms birthed the surfboard shaping business here. Even so, it's largely been the domain of professionals. But shaping is now being taught at a North Park business, Shaper Studios. Here, instructor Mike Emery is teaching Dave Lanham.
And then you want to come back to especially using it fully sideways like this.
Co-owner Chris Clark turned this 2,700 square foot building into a surfing workshop. It has several shaping bays and an area to glass the boards, give them that hard outer shell. He says making a board is almost a rite of passage for surfers.
They want to scratch that itch, if you will, of having their hand in the different things that they do. And there's not a lot of sports where you can get that involved. There's not a lot of sports where there is a tradition and history of people doing an art form behind the equipment that you're using.
The business shapes about 30 boards a month, but there's room to double that volume. And Clark says there are plenty of surfers in the nearby North Park area.
The surrounding neighborhoods are just a really creative environment for what we do, and this really allows us to set our business apart.
If Shaper Studios floats economically, Clark hopes to expand to 5 studios in different cities over the next 5 years.
A little more angle. There you go.
Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next news hour, the latest jobs numbers, plus Shields and Brooks on the week's news. That's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
A San Diego landmark celebrates its 150th anniversary this weekend. The Star of India will put to sea tomorrow. She's sailing on Sunday and Monday, too, leaving at 8 in the morning. The Star of India is the world's oldest active ship. The birthday celebration will continue into next weekend as well. We are in for a 5 to 10 degree cool down at the beaches and inland this weekend, then a warm up by mid next week. The coast this weekend will see a mix of sun and clouds right through Monday, mostly in the low 70s during the day, low and cool 50s at night. Now, the inland valleys will be sunny with some clouds rolling in by Sunday. Temperatures there in the upper 70s. The mountain areas cool into the upper 60s with plenty of sunshine, chilly at night, 40s. And the desert will see temperatures in the 80s with sunshine right into next week. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. Good night.